Right, Mr. Davies, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Page, your position as Parliamentary Budget Officer, that was a position created by the Conservative government under so-called accountability legislation. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And would it be fair to say that your mandate, as originally or initially conceived by the government, was to bring a transparency and accountability to the cost of governing? Is that a fair statement?
That's correct. Actually, we have a mandate that's legislated in the Parliament of Canada Act.
Okay, and could briefly describe your mandate to us, please?
Well, in the Parliament of Canada Act, it says the Parliamentary Budget Officer will provide independent analysis on economic trends, on the nation's finances, on estimates, and support for parliamentarians on costing.
Okay, now you've said, I think, some very profound words. You've said that parliamentarians have not been provided with sufficient information to carry out our fiduciary duties, and that parliamentarians have not been given timely and adequate information before legislation becomes law. I'm asking, do you feel that the way this government has been handling the crime agenda, that you've been able to carry out your mandate as prescribed by law?
Well, sir, we don't actually look at this in a partisan basis. I mean, we support all parliamentarians. So actually, when we provide this analysis, we're providing it to all members of Parliament, all different parties, and so it's our analysis to everybody. Conservatives.
No, it's not a partisan question, Mr. Page. It's, do you feel that you're able to carry out your mandate if the government's not giving you the cost assumptions and the methodology that they're using in order to cost legislation and provide that information to parliamentarians?
Sir, it makes it very difficult for us to support your work, and I think it's your mandate that holds the government account. What we try to provide is to give you financial information so that you can do your job.
Are you able to give us financial information comprehensively in the government's crime agenda?
Well, again, as explained by a previous member, it takes us months to develop an original methodology, to come together with assumptions, to provide something that's authoritative that you can use in committee discussions or when you're voting on supply. So it's a timeliness issue, sir, that for us, we can provide this type of information. It takes us a long time.
Right. Now, how would you describe the cooperation from the Public Safety Ministry and the RCMP as well in terms of providing your office with the information you need to give parliamentarians the cost information that we require?
Well, sir, we've been told that once these issues are deemed to be cabinet confidence, that we understand that once it's deemed to be cabinet confidence, and the people that make that decision, then it's very difficult to have a relationship with a public servant because they must follow the advice that they've been told. Again, we support the work of all the public service officials in Correctional Service Canada, the RCMP. They have very difficult jobs, but once they're told it's a cabinet confidence, then it's very difficult for us to have a relationship.
Okay, I'm holding in my hand, Mr. Page, a document prepared by Correctional Service of Canada called Strategic Plan for Human Resource Management. I understand you've received a copy of this document in the last 2 weeks or so?
We did, and that document, I believe, is posted up on the Correctional Service Canada website.
It is now, yes. I'm going to quote from it. It says, over the past year, legislative changes have occurred, namely the passage of Bills C2 and C25, for which preliminary forecasts show the CSC inmate population growing by up to 4,000 in the next 2 to 3 years. Now, that's 2 bills. Can you give me a ballpark estimate of what assumption you make for the cost of one position in CSC?
Actually,
if we add a position in CSC, what ballpark FTE figure would you use?
A cost per employee at CSC?
Yes.
Actually, we do have a cost per inmate. I'm not sure we have the calculation per cost per FTE in our report, but historically we have seen that the number of FTEs at CSC is almost the same as the number of inmates, so you can roughly assume that the cost per FTE will be the cost per inmate.
Right. So, in fact, that's where I was just going next, is this document also contains, as you've seen, charts with CSC's estimates of precisely how many positions they're going to have to create, broken down by classification, guards, administrators, etc. And I've added these up, and it's over 3,300 new staff will have to be created over the next 2 to 3 years to deal with that 4,000 new inmates projected by these 2 bills alone in the next 3 years. So if I'm trying to guess how much 3,300 new positions will cost, have you figured out an FTE cost for an average position so I could multiply by 3,300 positions?
Well, so I think in today's discussion and in our document, we provided an operational plus kind of capital replacement cost per inmate, but not. So we again, as Ashutosh Rajikar explained, we kind of look at it a per inmate cost. But again, we could do a reverse calculation, say, okay, how much per average salary, and in terms of benefits, and doing it that way. But we do it per inmate, and I think our per inmate cost is $160,000 per year per inmate.
Okay.
And again, as Ashley almost
for us, could you break down for this committee what a good fair assumption would be for an average FTE if we're creating 3,300 positions, what that's going to cost us?
Yes.
Is that something I could ask you to do?
Yes.
Thanks. Now we've talked about two bills here, C-25 and I think it's was it S2. Can you tell this committee what the total cost of the government crime agenda comprehensively is, both capital and operating, to date?
Sir, I'm not in a position to answer that question. We've only focused on C-25, the Truth in Sentencing Act.
Right. And that one bill alone will cost us $1 billion a year over the next 5 years, is your estimate. Is that correct?
It's an estimate that includes both operation and new construction costs, based on a number of assumptions, including status quo occupancy rates.
Mm-hmm. And do you know approximately how many crime bills there are before this Parliament that may have cost implications?
Well, we actually haven't kind of gone through to say all these have costs. Some are more material than others. So, again, we're now focusing on C-39 now.
Well, last night, this government, with the bloc support, passed Bill C-59, which eliminates accelerated parole, meaning that about 1,000 people a year who would be coming out of prison and going to halfway houses will now, at 1/6 of their sentence, will now be unable to do that to 1/3. That will obviously create a cost factor in our prison system too, won't it?
Absolutely. So if you're changing the length of stay, you're changing the in and out flow, you're changing the number of head counts, it's going to have a cost, an operational cost, and potentially a cell cost as well.
Yes. And once again, when we asked the cost of that yesterday, the government wouldn't tell us because it said it's a cabinet confidence. So we had to vote at third reading last night to pass a bill that we didn't know the cost of. Is that the kind of problem or breach of fiduciary duty that you're concerned about, Mr. Page?
So I'm very concerned about it.
Davies.
We'll do our best as Parliamentary Budget Office to make sure you have the information you need to do the costing. But in this case, no, that's not the way our system should work.
Thank you, Mr. Page. We'll now move to